morning.
Hi, this is Babz Rawls-Ivy from New Haven, Connecticut, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM, streaming live at newhavenindependent.org.
Oh, yes. Good morning. The wheels do indeed keep turning. How's everybody?
I'm good. Oh my God, Babz. That
I know that's
our man. I am so glad we came on with them. Like,
yes.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
That's going to be an amazing piece of work, you know. So good morning, everybody. If you just tuned in for the second hour of LoveBabz, LoveTalk, I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy. That is Ife, Michelle, Gardin, and Sean McAllister. And they're repping the Elm City Lit Fest. Hi. Woohoo. Good morning. It's hot. I am hot this morning.
Hot.
And muggy.
Yes.
I just want to say that like people, when I was listening, when Odell was saying that she wasn't an artist, but she's creating something. It's our voices. Like, our voices matter and our voices need to be heard. It's like, even within our community, it is so key. And that's why I conceived and came up with the Elm City Lit Fest, because it's all about Black voices. It's about like what people don't usually see or hear, what we don't get in the popular, in the news, in school, in education. The fact that that's going to be used as therapy.
Yeah,
we have traumatized children.
We got traumatized adults.
We got traumatized adults, and we have a traumatized community behind just the damn firecrackers going off all the time. Like, we so used to hearing gunshots in our communities that we don't even differentiate, right?
Right.
And I'm sorry. I went and got. I just like went and got out, and I want Shaw to talk, because that's I'm so happy that I have Miss Charmaine McAllister, and Emily Mayo, who likes to stay in the background. But that's my Elm City Lit Fest team. And Emily is like our girl, that the background girl that keeps it together.
So where are we with the Elm City Lit Fest? Because the last time you were on, you had moved the date. It's all virtual now because everything is virtual these days. And so the last time you were here, you had just made the decision to move it. And then shortly after that, the decision to go virtual because COVID.
Yes. So we're thinking. We're rethinking, right, Sha?
Yeah, we're kind of trying to wait it out. So maybe a blended option. We want to keep everybody safe, but I feel like when our people are together, we vibe off of our energy, our feeling, our emotion. So we don't want to take away from that, but we also don't want to put anybody in harm's way as well.
Right. And so the support has gained momentum for this Elm City Lit Fest since its inception to its execution to where we are right now. Talk a little bit about how that has grown.
So we are so grateful, so grateful. And again, mentioning your first hour, Odell mentioned Kevin Ewing. We started the Lit Fest podcast, and my goodness, we are going to film our fourth one on Sunday. We do bi-weekly Sundays at 7 p.m. And it is broadcast on YouTube and Facebook all together. And the momentum just from that has built up. The momentum for the Lit Fest, I started finding out how many writers and how much talent we had locally, as well as the global people I was bringing in. So we are extending it to 2 days. So it's going to be 26, 27.
Wow.
Of September. And like Sha said, we trying to do in and out. So we gotta negotiate and figure out how we're gonna do that. And just, I don't know, just so folks, what you got to say, Sha?
It's been a blessing. It's picked off so much. We're having our fourth show this Sunday is Black Voices in Theater. But to see the support from the community and to have folks really digging where we're coming from and seeing the importance of highlighting our writers under the African diaspora and just showing that there's so much talent in New Haven.
That's the thing that I want you to talk about, Shy, because I was wondering, were we ever aware of how much talent there is here?
No, I think a lot of the time folks think you got to call New York or you got to call somewhere else, but you got to represent your hometown. There are talented, out of sight artists and creators in our own city. They just need a shot. They just need a voice to show what they have. And I think we're filling in that gap the best way we can.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And a lot of artists feel like they're solo. Like they're out there pumping out their work, doing things, and feel like they're the only ones out there doing it. And that's the other thing I want to come out of the Lit Fest is a collective of artists and writers. One of the next things on my agenda is to, because I started a book club last summer to introduce the Lit Fest. Then we had to rethink the Lit Fest, and since we didn't have it in April, and now we have a podcast, and I plan on launching a writers group in August or September, just supporting writers, like to give people a place to gather, and Black writers, writers of color, African diaspora writers. I ain't mad at nobody else, but we supporting for us by us.
Yeah, because there's hardly any spaces for that, right?
Exactly.
You know, even though we're often told we're invited to spaces, we never feel welcome to spaces. And so sometimes you have to just create a space where we absolutely feel welcome. So,
and we're also in spaces where, because I've participated in writers' workshops over the years where I may be the only one or two people of Black people. I ain't gonna say people of color. One or two Black people that when you read something, nobody can relate to it, so they don't know how to respond to it.
Oh, that's a very important point.
And you need to get honest feedback. One of the other reasons for me doing this Lit Fest is because I'm a writer.
You are a damn good writer.
And and I need to get my mess out there. Not my mess. I wanted to say ish. My ish. Y'all know I cuss.
I think there's a certain comfortability that comes when you walk into a group or a space and there's folks like you. Like when you walk into an all women space, I feel like there's like a certain relaxation that just hits you naturally.
Yeah.
You feel more comfortable, more willing to share and be your true self and not having to have a guard or some sort of filter.
Yes. So the Elm City Lit Fest sounds like Ife and Shah, that it is becoming the catalyst for all sorts of things that didn't exist here in New Haven, like for writers and writer opportunities and writing communities for Black people or people of color. I say Black people and people of color because people can fall where they want.
Especially in Disconnecticut. So, as in my history is, I've been the crayon for a bunch of arts organizations over the years. Glad to say, right now, more of the arts organizations in New Haven are keeping their color. They're not just getting one crayon and then turning the page and everything's white. They trying to keep the color on each page. So that has evolved. But Alita Staten and I have our history with damn near every arts organization in New Haven. So when I was in Brooklyn, when I was living in Brooklyn, I was involved in getting, all in the mix. And when I came back here, I was like, I don't need to start another something. I mean, I don't need to do another theater company or another this. Literary arts was not something that was featured. And because I'm a writer, I was like, and I love to read, I was like, okay, well, let me begin this Elm City Lit Fest. Elm City because New Haven is the Elm City. Lit because it's literature, literary, and literacy, because that is something else that is very key to our community. I'm proud to say I'm on the board and also a volunteer for Literacy Volunteers of Greater New Haven. And it's just something that's important to me.
I think literacy is a big deal. I mean, since our landing on these shores, literacy has been a thing that we've always been chasing, right? How do we read and write against not being able to read and write, having it be against the law for us to read and write, to us being able to separate and unequal, to us being accepted into higher echelons of institutions, to us being, producers of newspapers and writers and all of that. So we've always had this literacy component in our history. I am surprised, Ife, that it has taken so long for the Elm City to get a Lit Fest. I mean, I think they were I think the Black Expo when I was a kid had book fairs and stuff.
Yes,
but nothing. Yes. But then beyond that, nothing.
And that's exactly why, because I'm an artist. I gotta create something.
I think there's two components to book clubs are important, yes, and engaging in reading. But I think literacy and writing is something else. Like writing can be healing. It helps your reading. And it causes you to think and contemplate and critically think. So emphasizing the writing component, the literacy component, I think it strengthens us as a people. Anytime somebody doesn't want you to have something and they put laws in place or they burn the books, or our schools would have older books and years, that means that it's important, it's vital, it's game changing.
Yes, I agree. So.
And as Odell mentioned in her time, it's healing. It's healing. I went through some difficult things in life, and writing really saved me in going through that. And even as a young woman, see, I'm wearing Zora Neale Hurston earrings today, and I got to shout out also to People Get Ready Books, Lauren Anderson and Dolores Williams, who are were my first partners and supporters besides Squad. So grateful for everything just falling into motion. But writing through our pain and sharing our stories, like so many women who have lost children to violence by us in our communities. sometimes feel alone, and stories like Odell's will help. And Sunday, when we have this Black Voices, we're going to have Sharice Salam. I hope I say her name.
Yes, I had her on, and she does what is it, Vintage Soul
Productions, the quick quarantine plays, which I have been having. I wrote 12, I think 12 or 13 monologues.
And getting these monologues out like fire.
I mean, they were really good. Like I haven't watched the last block yet, but I watched all of them up until this, and they are really something to see. You know,
they are. And well, and in our first podcast, we had the Hartford's Lit ladies, Nzima and T'Challa. They've been doing a Lit Fest in Hartford. This would have been their second or third year. The second year.
So are they taking theirs on virtual? Or are they putting on hold? Like what are they doing?
They actually have a weekly podcasts.
Okay.
On their Hartford's Lit, and their Lit stands for Literary Integrated Trailblazers. They're a group of artists, a group of Black artists who wanted to have their voices heard. So they started their own thing. Mm-hmm. And so when I came up with the idea for a book festival for New Haven, I was like, I'm gonna do a take on Lit, but I wanted to be not the Literary Integrated Trailblazers, but literature and literacy. Yeah. So we both lit, and we say we're connecting, disconnect to cut. Because I've been places, and I'm sure you have too, Babz, where when you say you from New Haven, people's like, there's Black people in Connecticut.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of Black people in Connecticut.
Yes, like we are very Black. Blackity black. So, all right. So talk a little bit about, I love the fact that we have so much talent here, and that this Elm City Lit Fest gives them a stage and a platform to show up and to show out. I think that's pretty important. And I don't think people realize the artists among us oftentimes until somebody spotlights. Talk a little bit about the surprise in finding all these talented people who and the people who are finding you just on the strength of this getting legs and going into the community and people finding out about it.
So I just like pretty much was social media, looking through, seeing who wrote a book. We had over, and once momentum built up about the Lit Fest, once I started putting it out there, like Elm City Lit Fest, like people started emailing and texting and stopping at the bookstore. People Get Ready was very helpful because when they were their opening in the fall helped me meet a lot of people that came through. We had over 40 local literary artists that have been making their own books. Then we went like, we have Poet Sun Goddess, Lauren Essence. She's gonna be on our podcast in August, I think. And we have Antoinette Brim, who is wonderful poet. We plan to have Marilyn Nelson, who was a poet laureate. Frederick Douglass Knowles was on our podcast. We had for our Father's Day edition, we have Black Male Voices with him and a young man, Colton Harris. And Frederick Douglass Knowles was a poet laureate in Hartford. So there are others there's a bunch of others that we're connecting with and will be either featured on the podcast and showing their wares and selling their books, because everybody got books and wares to sell.
It was more so surprising where these folks hadn't had an opportunity before, that it's 2020 and there really was nothing, an avenue or a medium for them. Like the talent people saying they've been writing all their life, and this is the chance to have that produced and shown. And it's like, it's an honor for us to be able to fill in that gap and to provide that space.
So is there any genre of books or storytelling that you've not been able to reach yet?
I don't think so. Because in looking at the roster of people, we have Professor Foster, who does like Black comic stuff. We have some fiction writers. We have a lot of poets. And wow, it's so many. You know, it was a range. It was a range. I was really filled with the response and how many people, when people would come out, I got a book out, and people were self-publishing.
Yeah. And
that's the other thing, because I also
because self-publishing has come a long way.
It really has. It really has. But I also would we plan on having workshops on self-publishing and getting published work out there and editing and all that good stuff.
Because that seems to be, I periodically get calls from people who need somebody to edit pieces of work, and I don't do that work anymore, but there seems to be a need for those kinds of things, and how to connect people to those kinds of services who are writers, so that everybody wants their stuff to look polished and neat and well done. And so I think it would be a good idea to sort of tell people how to connect to other people, how to copyright, how to edit, how to do marketing, how to do publicity, how to get PR for your book and that kind of thing.
And those are the kinds of things that we will feature. And again, because of the reach, because Emily has done such a great job of doing our social media, on our Facebook and Instagram page, I've been connecting with copywriters, editors of color. Black folks doing that stuff. So, and reaching out to them about doing a workshop and doing something for that, for the Lit Fest, so that some of these people that are struggling out there, like, hustling their books, can get more exposure and also get some assistance. And because sometimes you just need another set of eyes that's neutral.
Yeah.
Look at your work.
Yeah. So you all want to do, so now the thinking is some kind of virtual in-person opportunity, activity, event, so that people can gather, but in a safe sort of way. And for those who want a virtual experience, can have a virtual experience. So, I think that makes sense. Do you find this ever evolving time challenging?
Very much so. Very much so, because you want to keep the same energy and still have the same effect that you would in person. Like when folks gather, I feel like over time we've kind of gotten better with Zoom and these online platforms to still meet and kind of have a familiar experience that we would have in person. But it's been really challenging trying to trying to provide the same effect, but through a screen, and it's been out of the box thinking.
Yes, I can just about imagine. But so in doing this, have you looked at other book festivals across the country and what they're doing and what they're trying to do? I'm sure everybody is trying to have some kind of virtual experience right now.
Yes. So the Berkeley Book Festival is online. And that's one of the book festivals that I had visited, that I was like, okay, Berkeley. And the Brooklyn Book Festival is also that comes up in September, the week before ours does, and they're going to be virtual. So I'm looking at how people are programming their virtual book festivals. The Center for Black Literature at Medgar Evers College had a virtual, they usually have a Black Writers Conference in March.
Yes, they do.
They did, which I had attended, volunteered for, the whole nine. as well as when I was in Brooklyn, I did the Brooklyn Book Festival, the Harlem Book Festival, Queens had a book festival, Bronx Book Festival. And I connected with all these people, that the organizers, and I'm looking at in consulting with them about how they're doing their virtual.
So when you saw them doing their virtual, that said to you, this is doable. Like, you know what? We could absolutely do something virtual here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if that's the world we're going to be living in, because we might be in COVID second round in the fall, life is like that.
Yeah.
And we got to get creative, and we still got to get the exposure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and talking to artists, I mean, I know this might be a bit stifling for them, writers and other artists, to sort of be in this virtual reality, but it is a reality. And so how are you checking in with them about how this is all going to like work around? I'm sure they are having their experiences with having to do these things virtually too.
So what intention is to have them read. Were you going to say something, Sha?
I was going to say, we're mostly encouraging folks to pivot and not panic. Like,
I love that.
We're going to.
That's why I got that young energy. It's generational.
Oh, I'm so using that shot. Oh, don't panic. Just pivot. I love that. I love that. So do they find that comforting, like that? Like, because when you said it to me, I could see a little light bulb going off. Yes, don't panic. Just, you know what? This is a new time, and we can.
And that is what we're encouraging. And people and literary artists like to read their work, so they can read it virtually, and actually virtually opens your audience to the world. So they'll get an audience beyond our local community and globally. And that's what I took that too from Vintage Soul Productions, because in the first weeks of her quick quarantine plays, Therese was using local writers and actors, and now it's like international. She's getting people from Brazil, Ireland, all over the place. What are you gonna say, Sha?
It's encouraging writers or anyone who's putting something out to think of yourself as more of a brand, and being able, if you didn't have any like online content, or if you didn't have any video, now pushing yourself that you're going to need this from here on out. It may just not be folks come to your reading or your concert anymore. Now you have to be able to still get it out, and still get it out with the same quality.
That's a very good point. And I can imagine how that can be daunting to artists, right? Who don't think that they're savvy or sophisticated enough to pull off these kinds of virtual and electronic kinds of portfolios and resumes and concerts and all that kind of stuff. But here's an opportunity for them to sort of step into the virtual role without, a virtual lit fest brings you pretty much into the virtual reality of things,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the writing workshops I found in participating in those virtually, because you write and then you talk about it, you read with other writers in the company of other writers. And it helps people build up their confidence to read and to share. Because a lot of times I found in talking to some writers, they're like holding it close, like somebody else is going to tell their, like, take their words or whatever. It's like, nah, it's everybody's story. They may have a similar story, but they don't have your story. They don't have your words or the way you express them. So we want to just get that out there and expose them.
So if I talk a little bit about what this means to you. Because you came here and you really just made a huge mark. You saw something was missing and you just filled it in, you know. So talk about, this is very personal for you.
It's personal because I've been sitting up.
Something was missing and you just filled it in, you know. So talk about, there we go. Sorry, little technical difficulties. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm wearing Zora because I don't know, when I was in middle school or something, their eyes are watching God.
Technical difficulties.
I always was writing. So I'm wearing Zora because why are we having delay?
I don't know. Go ahead.
So because when I was in middle school, I read Their Eyes Are Watching God, and A Raisin in the Sun, and then looked up everything Lorraine Hansberry and Zora Neale Hurston, and then and also Langston Hughes, and then I became like just enamored with Harlem Renaissance writers. It was like something stuck with me. As a child, I always was writing, and I had little journals and stuff all around. So it was my passion. It was just that's what fed me, and dancing, because shout out to Bowen Peters, Angela Bowen, for Bowen Peters School of Dance.
Yes, every little black girl in New Haven came through there. I know I did.
Right, but it was more, and she taught us about what we were dancing about, and it was like, and I just, my family, my grandmothers inspired me to write and to read more and enjoy our culture. So it's a passion. It's a passion, and in my 60th year, I'm like, listen, I've been doing other stuff, and I have to live out Ife, and I will repeat, Ife means love of art and culture, love of the creator, love of creativity. And I'm living out Ife, and I had to create something for myself. And my passion, live out my passion, is not everyone can do that. I don't know if it's brave or crazy. And then in doing that, I met, and I was like, and I wanted to do something intergenerational as well, because I get my strength and energy from young people. And then I met this fabulous young lady right here.
We don't even remember how we met.
And then I met Emily. Well, actually, we met through coming together at a meeting about the Word Poets. Of course, another literary organization that does poetry in the schools here, led by Aaron Jafaris. And when I met Emily and Shaw, I was like, oh my God, I want them for the Lit Fest. Come over here. So we kind of do dual duty. But yeah, it was just momentum. It was just momentum and energy, and doing and learning through doing other things that I like. I didn't want to go to work for another arts organization, and it didn't work out. Things just weren't working out. Mm-hmm. when I do things for other people, it was like, nope, you got to do this. So when I sat in my meditation and got back to my stuff, because I have a lot of energy, but I do engage in some meditation, chill out. It just was like, listen, go for it. What you got to lose? And when I started putting it out there, everybody was just so supportive. I was so full. I'm still full and grateful.
So what is the end game, the long game for the Lit Fest? What would you like to see happen?
I would like it to be as big as the Arts and Ideas Festival.
Wow.
My intention.
I love that.
My intention was for it to become a destination event for New Haven. So I looked at like the Brooklyn Book Festival and the Berkeley Book Festival and the large book festivals that go on throughout the country and major cities. And that was my vision, to make it another destination event for New Haven and to feature literary artists and the literature of the African diaspora, because it's not enough in schools. There are teachers that really try to put it in within their curriculum, but there's a system that doesn't incorporate it, right? So, and not even enough of our people know about ourselves. So I also wanted to have the literature, the exposure of tradition, our classical artists, like I said, the Harlem Renaissance writers, and then beyond that, Toni Morrison and Gwendolyn Brooks and everyone that I am so full of when I read. Books take you somewhere, you know, and we have thriving, our library system in New Haven is really busy. Any library you go into. And we do have our little Schomburg, the Stetson over there that's about to blow up when it gets into their big building, right? And they do wonderful things in promoting literature and literary artists of color, because people could do readings over there. And then the Fairhaven Library does this Hispanic.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right, Ife. Each community in New Haven that has a library, the library reflects its community beautifully.
It
and
really
you can, and there's all kinds of things going on at all the libraries. So you can really do a nice tour of the libraries in New Haven and really get a really good arts and literary experience.
Absolutely.
You know, there's stuff that goes on in the Hill Library.
The Hill Library had a black book club.
And I was like, wow, they've got that going on. I've gone to some stuff over there. I love going over to the Fairhaven, you know, I like going over to the Miller Library, which in Westville. So, and I love going downtown too. So, so we are library rich, which I think is a beautiful thing.
Right. So, and then I wanted, Sha, what made you come on after I pulled you in?
So I'm not a writer per se, but I saw her vision. I believed in her just as much, like to provide that space for the community, to have a place for writers and to have a book festival. I remember as a child, they used to have, I'm from Jersey, so we'd have the Scholastic Book Festival.
Yes.
A time where you would see kids just light up because you've never seen these books before. You've never seen whoa, we can get this, and it encourages people to read. A lot of folks tell you they don't like to read. It's a chore, they don't want to, but to have it be encouraged, I had to get behind her. I had to help because, as she said, the schools aren't teaching our knowledge. That you don't hear about Audre Lorde in school. You don't hear about James Baldwin in school. You don't hear about Frantz Fanon in school. And this is our history. So teachers are trying to fit it in where they can and still get their own, what they have to do. But I'm very much a person of, I want to fill in the gaps where society has left us. And where any hole we can fill in these obstacles of traps that have been set for our people, I'm here for it.
I love it. I love it. Now, in your day job, Sha, you are in marketing over at the New Haven Symphony Orchestra.
Development.
I'm sorry, development. You're over in development at the symphony, which I'm always amazed every time I see Black people over there. There's so many Black people over there. I love that, because I think for a long time people had no idea, no awareness. So you really have elevated the exposure. Just you showing up in places and being who you are, and people are like, oh yeah, she works for the symphony, and so it has allowed people to sort of feel much more welcoming than they've felt in a very long time.
It's just as reading. Music is just as healing, and orchestral music, I feel like with music without sound, it hits you different. Because you have to then create the words in yourself. It's more drawn on feeling. So I think we're at a point, I think New Haven, just all across the country, all those avenues of healing, writing, music, yoga, fitness, everything is now coming together. And I feel like people are stepping into that and taking that space for ourselves. Anything that excluded us before, I think we're now snatching it back.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, Ife, I think this Lit Festival does exactly that. Particularly in a city where it was something that was that was obviously missing. Obviously missing when you think about New Haven.
We had a lot of celebrations for things, but we didn't have a lit fest.
Right. That's what I mean. It was, and I think when people think about that, they're like, you know what? Yeah, we don't have a lit fest. And there's tons of people who read. I mean, there's bookstores here. So clearly somebody is buying books, but
and like Atticus is always packed. The Barnes, even the Barnes and Noble on Broadway is always packed. The Institute Library could get more play because I did volunteer at the Institute Library for a while.
And but you might want to go back and volunteer. They look like they're trying to do some good stuff over there again.
Right. It just became difficult to access for
I know.
some people. Them steps is like walking up a very steep hill.
Yes.
It's a classic place.
I love it there. It's one of my favorite places.
But it's an old building with a steep climb.
Yeah.
Because it was one of the places I thought of for an event for Lit Fest. And then of course people get ready.
Yes, and as
girls,
that Lauren and Dolores stepped into a space that used to be held by B. Taylor.
Yes.
Black Print Heritage Gallery, a walk in truth Christian bookstore. And B held down that space for almost 30 years. And so when she finally shut the doors and sold the building, we were without a Black bookstore, Yeah. And it really became acutely apparent that we were without a Black bookstore. And so people get ready really filled that void for us.
And it still does, because Lauren will deliver books to you on her bike.
Yes.
She the bike fairy.
Walk-in people get ready. The books that they have are
it's a wonderful thing, Shadow. Go into a bookstore and all the books are about all of us, and they're not segregated off into a little section with
in a corner in the back.
Yeah, in the corner in the back with the little sign that says African American literature, and without any breakout of what, like everything is all in one. Do you know what I mean? Like all the books are just anything by Black people, just all in one place.
Over there, there's no separation of fiction, autobiography, none of it.
Art or music or culture, it's all just like, all right, all the Black books over there. So
or even stories for our children.
Yes.
I used to spend when I had my daughter, we spent a lot of time in Walking Truth getting our books. And she came up with Black literature like automatically, but not a lot of her peers did.
Yeah.
We gave out books and such, and people were like, oh, well, where you get that from? It's like, right over there.
So books. So there is something to be said for having books about Black people and brown people in your community. Really makes a difference in that community, in our communities, makes a difference. And so that's why I think this Elm City Lit Fest is so important. Because it will raise awareness of how needed and necessary our voices are in this arena of writing and literature and storytelling.
And I wholeheartedly believe that the more you know about your culture and where you come from, the better you feel about yourself, the less that will happen. My ultimate dream is for more people in our community to have an awareness of their culture. Like we're the only ones that like slavery is a bad word or something, or they don't want to relate to that. And in other cultures do not let you forget about their history. And we're resilient as a people and put up with a lot of ish in this country. And we have to have a sense of ourselves in literature and learning about ourselves and having a knowledge about ourselves and accessing it is really key. And also the voices and hearing the voices. That's why I love this old soul sister right here.
She really is. She really is. So so do we have dates for the Elm City Lit Fest right now?
26th, 27th of September.
Okay.
And within this, by the end of this month, we'll have like more information about location and things like that. We're working on it. But in the meantime, we have a bi-weekly podcast. So this Sunday, Sha, you want to tell her?
Yeah, Black Voices in Theater, Venture Soul Productions. I don't want to mess up the sister's name, so I'm just going to say Venture Soul Productions.
Cherie Sellums.
Mr. Reseller, we are excited to have you. And I think the podcast has been great in making sure that we keep the excitement up and that folks are still knowing that folks are still writing. There are productions still happening online and in these free spaces. Like everyone's essentially on Facebook. And if you're not on Facebook, you're on YouTube. So you can still get fed, but now you just have to click for
it. Exactly.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
We also want to encourage people to buy and support these artists that we're going to feature.
That's a good point, Ife. Yes.
The show after this Black Voices in Theater will be the spirituality of writing poetry, and we're going to have Antoinette Brim, who is she's an instructor at Capital Community College, but she's in New Haven. She's on the board for Creative Arts Workshop, and the sister that I met in Brooklyn, Keisha Gay Anderson. And Keisha Gay is a Caribbean writer in Brooklyn, poet. And I feel like Brooklyn is my second home because I just love it. So I have to connect the two. And then in August we'll have Poet Son and a couple of other local poets from New Haven. So we're gathering people to get their information out there. But they also have books to sell. They have websites, and all that will be posted on our Facebook page as well as our Instagram and when we do the podcast.
I think that's great. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm telling you, I love the ever evolving Lit Fest, Elm City Lit Fest, because it says you have not given up on it. It says that it's going to happen, however way it happens, it's going to happen, and you all are weaving it and tending to it as best you can in these times, and I just love it. That's why periodically you have to just keep coming on and just like letting everybody know what's happening, even though you have your own platforms to do that. It's always nice to have you back here so that people can just like hear, you know, that the Elm City Lit Fest is still moving forward.
Yes, indeed, and we love the platform. Shoot, we appreciate everything. Like I can talk.
Miss Babz, you are loved. The symphony loves you. You are loved all around.
I love the symphony. I do. It's one of my favorite things to do in this city, because I just find that New Haven is very rich, and I think a lot of people are not inviting themselves into the richness of this city and what it has to offer. And I know the reasons why. Just trying to sort of insert myself in these spaces so that it gives permission to other people to like, you know, if Babz goes there, then maybe it's not a bad idea if I go over there too. Do you know what I mean? Like if she goes, maybe we could go. You know what I mean? Like people have to see you do things and others so that people are like, you know what? I'm interested in that too. And will come. And so, and I love this city. I love the heartbeat and the rhythm of this city. And so, so that's why I'm for the symphony too. So,
and there's room for everybody to make things happen and to insert themselves and make a space for people of color in all of that.
That's true, Aoife, and that's the beauty of New Haven. Unlike New York, which is so big and vast, you can jump in at any point in New Haven and make a tremendous difference. You know, if you have a thing for kids in literature literature, you can create a space for kids in literature. If you have a thing for romance novels, you can create space for Black romance. You know what I mean? Like, New Haven is an ideal place to insert yourself at any point, at any time, and create something, and it will be well received.
Absolutely.
Knowing that they can, like, it's not to be afraid. It's not to, I don't have the team to support. Do it, and the universe will support you. Things will happen. The Lit Fest has jumped off so much that it's no one else but God. We've been good stewards of the blessings we've been giving. And I think anybody stepping in to fill in a gap that society has built for us, I feel like the universe is just waiting for these social to change.
I agree 100%. So it's been a pleasure having you all on this morning.
We appreciate it.
There's a lot of energy this morning. I have 2 energetic shows.
Yeah, right. But it's so key. Like, and it was so synchromatic, whatever, however I want to say. But we were in sync. And I learned more I knew about Odell's production, but not a lot about it. And now, I knew about her, how it came about and everything, but it's wonderful. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Yes. And I'm glad that they took it online and didn't give up on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I think COVID-19, people feel like they had to just stop in their tracks. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't know what to do. But now I think people are starting to really understand that, listen, we can do this virtually. The Long Wharf Theater did a whole gala virtually, and it was well received and well attended. So I'm convinced you can do anything. I've seen it, so we're gonna make it happen, right, Sha? Make it happen. So Elm City Lit Fest, September 26th and 27th. Yes. And you'll keep us updated as we move forward, as we march forward to those dates. See what happens. And I thank y'all. Bless y'all for coming on this morning, and thank you for all this wonderful literary divinity. We appreciate having you. I think I have so much energy because all I had was coffee this morning. And all I had was some sparkling water. I'm about to make me a decent breakfast and then go do what I do everywhere else. So thank y'all so much. Sean McAllister, it's beautiful to see you. Ife, I'll be talking to you in a few minutes. Harry Droz, thank you. You see, Raven had to come in there. She had a bomb. Hey, Raven. Bye. So, thank you, Harry Droz. You can play us out. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Groovy music and house music.